So we are the Hackings. I am James, and this is Amany Hacking. I grew up in St. Louis, and I became a Muslim in 1998. 1998.
Wow.
And Amany and I helped start the local chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a civil rights group for Muslims in America. As soon as I became a Muslim, I joined CARE because I knew that the civil rights of Muslims were always under attack. And it was important for me to help start that chapter here in St. Louis and to help Muslims organize and protect their rights. It's a great blessing to be here with you all here today. I love going out to visit different masjids and giving talks about immigration and about life in America and the way things work. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Jim and Amany Hacking. I'm an attorney, and Jim and I went to law school together, actually, many years ago. Yes, we graduated in 1997 together. And so as far as we knew, we were one of the early Muslims that were lawyers in our community, right? So I was born in Egypt, and I came to America when I was like 7 years old, and almost 7 years old. And I remember coming to America. Like, that's a memorable event for me, okay? And I'll never forget that I wasn't born here. And that's a big distinction that people don't know. As a matter of fact, when they hear me and they see me, they're like, oh, where are you from? But I'm from here. I've been here most of my life, right? But they're always where you're from. And so I'm very proud of where I'm from. I love Egypt. It's a beautiful country, it's a beautiful place to grow up. Lots of beautiful Muslims and non-Muslims there. But growing up in America is different. Knowing your rights is very different. So when I think about knowing my rights, I think about my family. I think about when I first came to America, and I think about what that was like. And I think about that for my clients, and I think about that for my family, right? So Jim and I are blessed with 4 children. We have our oldest is Ismail. He's actually at San Diego State University in the Final Four right now, people. So please pray for them. And then my second son is Yusuf, and he's at University of Virginia. And then my youngest son is Ibrahim, and our youngest son is Ibrahim, and he's at Parkway West High School. And then our baby girl is Lauren, she's 13, she's in 8th grade. So I mean, we think about these rights for us, and we think about these rights for our parents, and we think about these rights for the future generation. So it affects so many people in so many different ways. And you know, sitting here and being an American for so long, people may think you're a citizen, but you're not quite a citizen. Those rights are very different. I think he's been the opposite.
First of all, there's sort of an immigration ladder, right? There's different rungs of the immigration ladder. So there are people who are in the United States who have no immigration status. There might be people here in this room, there might be people watching on the stream. Those people are called undocumented people. So undocumented people either entered the United States without inspection, or they came on a visa and didn't go back home on time. Does anybody know how many undocumented people there are in the United States, roughly? Yeah, they think it's between 13 and 15 million people in the United States. Yeah, 13 and 15 million undocumented people in the United States. 2/3 of those are people who entered without inspection. That is, they came without ever talking to the government. They snuck into the United States, probably mostly through the southern border, maybe through the northern border. And then 1/3 are people who came on visas and overstayed, never went back home when they're supposed to. The United States doesn't really do that much at tracking of when people leave. So a lot of people that come on visit visas come and they're trusted to leave on time. But millions of people don't leave on time, okay? So the people who are here without status fall into those 2 groups, and that's a really important distinction, a really important difference, is people who entered without inspection versus people who overstayed their visa. People who entered without inspection, think of it this way: the government never had a chance to say whether they got to come to the United States at all or not. Versus people who had a visa, at least the government got to know they were coming, got to talk to them beforehand, got to decide whether or not to let them into the United States. So there are some more protection for those people than there are for people who entered without inspection. People who entered without inspection have a really hard time in the United States getting status. There are ways for them to get status, but it's very hard if you entered without inspection. Okay. At our office, just like the brother was saying about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we don't believe that people can be illegal. No human being is illegal. If you kill someone and are on death row, we don't call you illegal. So
Just call you a criminal.
right.
You can be a criminal, you can still be a human being, right? So the idea is you're still a human being. Right, but that's a really important distinction. Enter without inspection causes a lot of confusion. It's basically exactly what Jim said. You basically have papers. Okay, I don't know if that's an easy way to think about it. Like you have a paper and that paper tells you you can enter the United States and you presented that paper.
So we talked about one way to get a green card. One way to get a green card, you can either come as a refugee or to apply for asylum, get granted asylum. There's three other ways to get green cards in the United States. One is through employment. One is through something called the diversity visa lottery. One is through marriage. Okay, so those are generally the ways that people can get a green card, to get status, to get one rung beneath citizenship. So like Amany said, if you have your green card, you can work in the United States forever. You can stay here forever as long as you don't violate the terms of your status. You don't stay outside the United States too long and you don't get convicted of a crime.
Date is on your green card. It's actually not far. It's 10 years. Usually it's either a 2-year green card or a 10-year green card.
But you don't ever have to become a citizen.
Yes, you can keep renewing it. And I've had people that have green card for 4 years.
If I came up with a list of the issues that USCIS is concerned about the most right now, it's about giving immigration benefits to men from Nigeria. So here's the scenario. I'm going to lay the scenario on you. I hear this scenario literally on my show 3 times a week. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So my name is Muhammad. I live in Nigeria. I go and I get my friend. Her name's Sheila. Hey, Sheila, let's tell the embassy that we're married so that I can get a visit visa to come to the United States. So they might be married, they might not be married, might be a customary marriage, some way or the other. Muhammad has told the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, give me a visit visa because wallahi, I will come back to Nigeria because I've got this wife named Sheila here in Nigeria. So of course I'm going to come back, even though they're not really married. Or they are really married. Muhammad gets his visit visa to the United States. Muhammad either gets divorced in Nigeria before he comes to the United States, or Muhammad comes to the United States and gets divorced. Then Muhammad marries a U.S. citizen, even though he said he was going to go back home after 6 months. So then Muhammad's new wife in America files for a green card for Muhammad. Then Muhammad gets his green card interview. And they say, hey, we don't believe you're really divorced back there in Nigeria. Get us a copy of your divorce decree. But the government plays lots of tricks on people. One thing that they'll say is, oh, you had a customary marriage? That's great. Get us your divorce. I've had people get visit visas being married to people that don't exist, that fake people and fake children. And so the government, they could let you admit that you lied and get it to a waiver, but there's a dirtier trick that they have. They say, have your ex-wife show up at the embassy and tell us about your marriage. But there's no such person, right? So it's impossible. So this is a huge problem. So the divorce decrees from Nigeria are the #1 issue that USCIS is concerned about in the State Department right now. So now I've seen denial after denial where the State Department, the embassy in Nigeria, sends someone out to the court and says, here's Muhammad's divorce decree. Is this thing real? They go, no, this thing isn't real. So then if that divorce decree is not real, then Muhammad's marriage to the American citizen is invalid and they can't get a green card.
And there's potentially fraud, which means he may never be. Right? So when you commit fraud, when you lie to the US government, they could say you committed fraud and now you're not eligible for any potential immigration benefit ever in the United States.
That's right.
So this is very, very serious.
So USCIS is racist against Black people. There's officers who don't like it when Black people marry white people. They don't like it when Black people marry US citizens. So and overall, USCIS doesn't want to prove your case. So people go in and say, oh, USCIS is going to give me a fair shot. Oh, if I just submit all the documents and I do everything right, USCIS is going to like me because I'm a nice guy. They're going to give me my immigration benefit. That is the wrong attitude. They want to say no. They want to deny you. And so you've got to go in there ready for a fight because it's going to be a fight. Otherwise, you're going to.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be prepared and make sure someone looks at your documents before you do anything. Don't just send a bunch of stuff. This is like the #1 mistake that my clients make is they send a bunch of stuff and say, I sent them everything they asked for. You didn't even understand what you sent them. And now they're gonna use it against you.
The biggest problem is you don't know what you don't know. So there's people who think, I'm gonna tell the government this, and they're gonna understand everything. I'll give you a great example. People say, you know, I really need my husband here. I'm gonna tell them how poor I am and how much I need my husband here to help me make money to support our family. That sounds like something that normal human beings would, that makes sense, that USCIS would feel sorry for you. That's a great way to get denied, because then you're deemed a public charge. So people might think that they know what they're doing, but they don't know the rules. And if I can emphasize one thing, it's almost like everything is backwards. I once had this old Bosnian guy call it upside down house. Upside down house. And I use that all the time because that's how I think about it. Things that you think are A are actually B. If you get divorced in the United States, it's much better because you can divorce your spouse back in Nigeria, and you can do it in a way that we have proof that the divorce is valid, and then they have to accept it. Then you just have them remarry the U.S.
But again, you wouldn't know
So
that.
it's better to do it right here than do it wherever you want.
Yes, because you know what she's not gonna say to me? She's not gonna say that paper came from Amazon. She's gonna say that paper came from St. Louis County. You see what I'm saying? I wasn't there. I don't know where that paper came from. Maybe Nigerian courts ordered it from Amazon. I don't know.
You must.
I don't know. Religious marriage, even in the United States, alone is not a valid marriage. Okay, if the sheikh is here and the imam is here and they say, okay, you're now legally married before God, that's awesome, and we want that. But the US government also has to have the seat of that. And until that happens, there is no legal marriage in the United States.
So like we got married by the imam, but the imam reported it with St. Louis County.
Right,
So that's what needs to happen.
right.
So what they need to have as a legal document is going to be the license,
Yes,
right?
it's the license. St. Louis County anyway, yeah. And most jurisdictions have their own version of that. So you have, and the person who's officiating the marriage,
Right.
they need to know that. If they don't know that, they should not be officiating the marriage, because that is making a marriage that is not valid in the United States unless they follow the law.
And usually all you need to get married in the United States is a passport. So if the foreign national comes to America and wants to get married, as long as they have a passport to prove who they are, that should be all that they need to get married.
It should be unexpired. Same with
Unexpired
Should
passport?
be unexpired document. It depends on the rules. Wherever you're about to get married, so if it's St. Louis County or St. Louis City, I've had people do it in Utah and
Like
Vegas.
St. Charles will give you more trouble than like the city.
Right, so you should always look up where you live and what the rules are in that county or in that district, because they're gonna tell you what to bring and to make an appointment, and so they're all gonna be slightly different. Usually they say unexpired document, but it depends. Some will take an expired document. Maybe in Chicago they will, I don't know. But you have to check. 'Cause I've had people who could not get married because they didn't have the right paper.
Once you get your green card, you can apply for citizenship. If you've had your green card for 5 years, you can apply for citizenship. If you had your green card for 3 years, you got it based on marriage, then you can apply after 3 years. So there's a special rule for the spouses of US citizens. There's 3 categories of people called immediate relatives. So immediate relatives are the spouses of US citizens, the parents of US citizens, and the under 21-year-old children of US citizens. Those are called immediate relatives. Congress has no limit on the number of green cards or immigrant visas that those people can get. So your mom and dad, your spouse, and your little kids can all get as many green cards as possible. You just have to go through the process. For everybody else, there's a cap, there's a limit. Congress has not increased the number of these other kinds of visas for 20, 30 years, right? So right now, they are working on cases for the married children of US citizens that were filed 7 years ago. Wow. For the unmarried children of green card holders, it's also like 7 years. For the brothers and sisters of US citizens, it's between 15 and 20 years.
I think.
Thank you all. for
Thank
coming.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. We have some goodies up here, so please feel free to come and take some pens and Ramadan schedules. And these are letter openers. Yeah, let's do a quick picture. That'd be great. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.